This month, what we are going to be talking about is debt, because all of us have the beauty of living in this country and having so much debt, and it is glorious. And I hope you can hear the sarcasm in my voice. So first and foremost, I think mostly everyone's here. I want to tell everyone thank you so much for coming out. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shawnee Smith. This is Mr. DK Smith. DK's background is in law, University of Miami undergrad, NYU Law. Worked for Goldman's as well as BCG. My background is actually in medicine. I went to Xavier University undergrad. Last month I had on my Xavier University cardigan because I love our HBCUs. Boop, boop. But I went to medical school in Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, business school at St. Joseph's University, and I am a double board certified critical care physician. DK and I came together, so we started doing this every month. We've been going for, I want to say a few months now, maybe five or six. Yeah. So every month is a different subject. And what you guys can do really to kind of backtrack and get some information on previous months, we have an Instagram account called Pinots and Profits with an S. All one word together. Mm-hmm. And then DK actually has a YouTube channel, which is
DZ. What's my YouTube channel?
Put you in timeout.
DK Smith. Google DK Smith YouTube. Yeah. Esquire. Yeah. It comes up.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
So basically people can go back and look at some of the other things we've talked about. Like the past 2 months, we had spoken about stocks, bonds. What does that mean, since a lot of us don't really know what are stocks that we should look at, what are stocks we shouldn't look at, what does it mean versus a publicly traded company versus a private company and things of that nature. This month, what we are going to be talking about is debt, because all of us have the beauty of living in this country and having so much debt, and it is glorious. And I hope you can hear the sarcasm in my voice. But you come out, you start working, you're making money, and then you don't know how to manage that debt appropriately. So we're going to talk about personal debt versus business debt. What does that mean? Because there are some misnomers that you're told from a very young age, I feel like. But we also do this session so that it is not a lecture. Our goal is not to talk to you guys for like an hour. Our goal is to really have a kind of like a question answer session. We try to make it a very intimate, small environment so that everyone's comfortable. There's no such thing as a bad question. There are only good questions, because you'd be surprised how many people in the room might also have the same question as you.
All right, let's get into it. Do you all know how much household debt America has? Like by a number?
Like total?
Yep, total household debt in America.
200,000. You're talking about with house, like
yeah, but total, every household in America, average. 1.3 trillion. Any other numbers?
Around
50 billion.
2 trillion.
5 trillion.
5 trillion. Any other guesses or anything?
5.1.
I like that. That decimal. That decimal will get you every time.
Well, you're closest, so. It's around $14 trillion in household debt in America right now, and that 1.3, that's auto loans actually. 1.4 student loans.
Is that considered like having a mortgage, the ones that you owe, even though?
It is. So mortgages comprise about 9.8 of that 14 trillion is mortgages. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then credit card debt is just under $1 billion, hovering around 900 billion, or just under $1 trillion, 900 billion.
Which is interesting. I would have thought credit card debt would have been higher.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And then how about corporate debt? Does everyone want to take a stab at that? Now you know household debt. What about corporate debt?
When you say corporate debt.
So like 20 trillion, okay. Like all debt from businesses.
I'm gonna say 900 billion.
900 billion. 20. It's actually right. It was like right in the middle. It's for both of you guys.
And your prize is more wine.
But not.
I need to win that.
30 trillion.
So it's right in the middle between 20 and about 1. So it's 9, a little bit over $9 trillion. But that's up from 5 trillion in 2007. So we're actually getting in more and more debt. As you know,
Corporate is less
in the house. Exactly. Yeah, which is interesting, right?
Yeah. I was shocked when I heard the number too.
Yeah. So, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean for us? Why do we care? I mean, we should care because debt is not always bad and it's not always good, right? And so it's a careful game. We're talking about personal debt. You should probably not finance your vacation, right, with debt, but you should maybe finance your medical bills,
Right.
Things like that, right? And so, debt from a personal side is, should be used as, not necessarily a last resort, but a tool, all right, and not something that is called upon every single week, every single day, every single month. Now, if you have a credit card and you have the cash flow and you're paying off the credit card every month, then that's not really debt, right? And you're just getting points at that. But making sure you have that cash flow, which is what business debt pretty much boils down to. Business debt, it has a bad stigma. Like a lot of business owners say, "Oh, I don't have any debt," and that's not necessarily a good thing,
right?
Because the cost of money right now is so low that it may behoove you, depending on your situation, to have a little bit of debt on your business, just because you want to finance more projects and you can get money cheaply right now compared to when interest rates will eventually rise. So that's sort of the two misnomers that everyone says personal debt. It's kind of.
How many people were told in here, and I'm just curious because I may be the only one who was told this, that don't worry about your student loan debt. Like that's good debt to have because it's your education. And so don't worry about that. That's a lie. They are lying to you. I feel like when I went to medical school, everyone was like, don't worry about that debt. You can always defer, you can put it off for as long as you need to. It's okay. It's all about, your education. You'll be making a salary as such where you can pay those loans, so don't worry about that debt. I think that's the biggest misnomer that we tell younger generations is not to worry about that debt. Business debt associated with your business is not necessarily a bad thing. That's a good debt. Debt associated with your education, your loans, that is not a good debt to have. That's the debt that you have to aggressively pay as much as possible. And I feel like, and I'm not sure if it's certain communities that are told that misnomer, but I feel like a lot of people are told that lie. And so people just keep taking out loans. And they even do it in undergrad.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not bad to have education debt if you have a plan. Right. So if you're going to, for example, I have friends in these Ivy League schools. A lot of them don't give. I don't think any of them actually give scholarships. Right. I think it's pretty much you have to take financial aid out, and then you have to take out loans. And so I have plenty of friends that went to Harvard Law and they have a bunch of debt. But guess what? They will be making $1 million a year in the next 3 years. So that's fine. But now if you're going to, a law school where the employment rate's maybe 10 to 20%. That you take up the same amount of money, that's not necessarily a good gamble, a good bet. So it's really, if you're going to take out education debt, you should have a plan for that and go into something that will allow you to pay it off eventually, right? And whether you're a doctor or attorney or engineer, whatever that is, but having that plan in any kind of situation, in any situation, having a strategy to pay off that debt and a 10-year plan, that is the most important thing. I see a lot of kids. Oh, yes.
April has questions.
Okay, so I like to throw out numbers because I feel like we don't talk about
I love numbers.
$58,000 in student loans.
That's amazing. I'm so jealous. Look, sitting over here like.
No, it is primary. It's from Gresham. So when my mom passed away a couple of years ago, and fortunately left my brother and I in a place where we were financially okay with money. I had an opportunity to pay off my student loans. I was told by a few people not to throw that much liquid money at a student loan. And I went back and forth because the thought of being debt-free was extremely appealing to me. But I ultimately didn't do it. The other reason I didn't do it is because I'm a nonprofit worker, and we were sold this dream of this public service loan forgiveness program, which we all know is...
It's a lie. Oh, I'm sorry.
Somebody gets Betsy DeVos with a Mack truck, I won't be mad. But it's highly unlikely that that's going to happen. Would you suggest paying off that student debt, or because my interest rate is low, I think it's like 4 or 5%, or just continue to chug away and make payments and stare at it every month?
So that depends on your opportunity cost, right? So if you have $58,000 in cash and you have $58,000 in debt, and your debt, he said, for 4%, what's the highest or the most realistic amount you can make with that other $58,000?
It's all in an investment account right now with they're saying it could make 12% a year annually. I don't know how much I believe. It hasn't been a year yet, so I don't know how much I believe.
What's this one?
I was gonna say, man.
I was like,
I mean, I know
Yeah.
But it's an investment account. I know that the likelihood of that happening
It's pretty low.
It's pretty low. So yeah, I don't know. Like I don't. It was a good time.
I mean, and you're making you have other cash flow coming in. So the thing is, typically I advise clients that that may have come to a windfall and want to buy a house or something. Or just anything. A large purchase, which is a large purchase, would be debt repayment. I know friends that are in the investment community, and they say, okay, you give me $500,000, we'll make conservative 6 to 8% on that, and then we'll take that money and we'll give you a loan that's closer to 2%, right? And then that while you're making 6 to 8, your loan costs 2 and you're paying it off. And so it's almost like refinancing basically. So the best thing I would say is to chip away and try to refinance. You already at a pretty low rate. I don't know how much lower you can go. So, I mean, it's just you. I don't think you want to like.
Your interest rate is so low right now. I would say wait. But if you look at most people that are enrolled in graduate school now, the loans they're taking out on average, those interest rates are anywhere between 7 and 9%. Those are loans that you need to aggressively pay, because the interest rate is so high that if you chip away, you might be chipping away till you in the grave.
Right, and then let's just say you do pay everything off, right? And then, heaven forbid your dog gets sick and now you're stuck with a $15,000 vet bill. And you're gonna.
So April has a new puppy.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know.
Lily gonna have to be her baby.
Don't put Lily down.
15 grand. That insurance.
You're probably going to pay that off with credit card debt or something, which will be much higher than 4%. Right? So the way you think about it is that your opportunity cost right now, you have a pretty low interest rate. I would just chip away at it and use that money as long as that money's working. Now, if it's just sitting there and not doing anything, then you should probably. Okay, so. Yeah, you look at it maybe once a year or once a quarter and try to rebalance with your.
So like an example to fit with that, I was able to consolidate all of my medical school loans, except for one, which is a graduate loan, graduate plus loan. So that's a special thing. The medical school ones have an interest rate of like 2.85%. I know, God loves me. But yet, not so much, because the graduate plus loan has an interest rate of almost 7.5%. So what am I aggressively doing? I'm chipping away at the one that's got the lower interest rate and knocking down doors for the one that's got the 7.5 interest rate, because I saw within 2 years of graduating, my loan that was only $50,000 increased to $70,000. And I was like, oh, Look at God. You don't like me so much. Okay. So you go for the loan that's got the higher interest rate. And on average now, it becomes a problem if you're educating your kids just because their interest rates on their loans are so high.
Yeah, that's true. Any other questions we have? We're talking about student loans in particular.
So with that being said, if you're talking about how the interest rate, the loan continually went up, even though you were paying it down, so why wouldn't the recommendation be pay off your debt? Because even if you are investing, that is still counterproductive. If I'm making this amount of money on my investments, and yet at the same time, so my loans are compounding as well.
Well, if you have, so in her situation, you're making, let's say, what, 12% in a good situation. say you're making 10%, right? And then your loans are 4%. Net, you're paying off that 4%, hopefully plus some. So you're financing that with your investment. So you're protecting your principal and using the money you make off your principal to pay down your interest plus eating into your debt's principal. So over time, in the long run, that should win out.
If the numbers are equal.
It's big if. It's big if.
So that's where I'm coming from. That's assuming that I already have 40 in and I'm having 40.
Right.
9 times out of 10, most of the people are coming at my loan is already higher than what I'm already putting in an investment. So therefore, you're actually losing still. Because your loan is always going to be beating.
And this is a nice segue into having a plan, right? And having a strategy, because what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to get either as programs online, you can get with an accountant or whomever, and have a strategy and lay it out on paper, right? Okay, what do I owe? What's my opportunity cost? Like, yours is 12%. So, what's that? What can I make on this money? What's my average interest rate for my debt? Right? And then how long will it take me to pay this off? How many months? How many years? And do I have any windfalls coming my way? Right? So maybe you may have a bonus coming up, and if you have a $20,000 bonus, you take half of that instead of going on an extra vacation. Maybe get a donation. I don't know. Exactly.
My bonuses are
So you use some of that to pay off, the principal. But you covering your interest and make sure it's not actually growing, and still paying off some principal and having a plan. Maybe that's budgeting for 3 to 4 years, but then after that, now you're debt free and you still have your original principal that's been accruing interest in your investment account. So that's what I would say.
Yes, sir.
I think that a lot of that sounds nice, like in theory, because it does make sense, like mathematically, to be the best option. But I also think that there are times where, like, psychologically, knowing that you're in debt. It really hurts your soul, and actually making an attempt to try to pay it off, to know that you don't owe anybody anything is like self-rewarding. Because people would say that to me too. Like, I have a mortgage and I have a house, and a friend of mine will be like, just start chipping away at it. Like, if you have an extra couple thousand, like, put it on top of whatever your mortgage payment is. And I'm like, yeah, but I might be able to, like, get some stocks or something that might yield a higher return than what my interest rate is on what I owe for the house. And they're like, yeah, but you'll sleep better at night knowing that, like, you don't owe as much, especially if it's something you thought that was going to be great ends up going down. And so so I think that it's a personal perspective, and like on what is good for you.
What works?
And
that's why there's like so many options of things that you can do. That's why it's not cut and dry, where it's like everyone should do this and everyone should do that, because everybody has a different taste for what is good for them.
That's true.
And that is true. But I also, just to counter that a little, I think also there is a lack of understanding of growth of money in this country from people of like all levels. So people haven't been taught that a little bit of debt is okay, whereas other people have been taught. I have family members, God bless them, they are probably in their 80s now. There is money hidden all around the house because they don't believe in banks, but that's because they grew up in a time where the banking industry was not as secure. But we all know to leave cash sitting isn't always in your best benefit, because there's no possibility for growth. It's just sitting there, it's stagnant. So I think for a lot of people too, it's just lack of knowledge because people aren't talking about it. And then people don't know where to get information from about it.
Now, on business debt, right? On yes, please, yes.
I think that comes from the sense of like, especially the Great Depression era.
Yep.
Very much
Yep.
so. That's why I said they were in the 80s.
I may not depend on the bank. Right? So let's say the bank has a bank holiday, right? Which you may be familiar with. I still have that money. I can always have. It's almost a state. It's a mindset of.
It very much so is.
So I can always have that to call on should that ever happen.
That's why I said they were that old. Got some great aunts in Rochester, New York. Special breed.
Yeah.
I mean, a slight tangent here, but that's where some of your crypto anarchists are going with their with the idea of cryptocurrencies, is that you're not dependent on a bank in that sense. So that's where some of these people are thinking. That doesn't solve the sort of immediate tactical kind of debt problems people may have. That's some of the thinking people have around cryptos.
Well, I think that, and I'm sorry.
No, please.
There are no segues here.
The crisis, right, 2008 crisis, which lent itself towards kind of a distrust of banking and financial institutions.
Yeah.
So really the benefit of that was the invention of blockchain. So without that, you would not have blockchain.
That's true.
That's an extremely good point. Yeah. We wouldn't have. 2008 crash stunk. Okay.
Yeah, no, I had a conversation with some colleagues of mine over on the East Coast this weekend, last week. And we talked about how the banking system in America is in bed with the payment system, right? Banking and payments kind of go hand in hand, right? You can't really make a payment without going to a bank. And you can't really go to the bank and then eventually get your money out and not make a payment, like, or else why you get your money out. But then you forget about the whole commerce part of things, right? You forget about commerce, and whereas you see a country like China, their payments and commerce are directly tied, right? Because you can go on WeChat and I can pay for something. I can pay for this glass of wine that you have, right? And I don't have to pay a bank fee. It's just through WeChat. There's no intermediary or anything, right? And so I think we're in a very unique situation in America because we don't have, and this is kind of where cryptocurrency comes into play, is that allows us to go directly to payment, to commerce instead of dealing with the bank and dealing with the intermediary that makes it, that causes friction in that transaction, right? And so cryptocurrency reduces friction, just like shadow banks reduce friction. A shadow bank is, that's like a company that lends you money that's not a bank, basically. So, so for simplicity's sake. That can be considered a shadow bank, yeah, but it's unfortunately it's 20 to 30% interest. Yeah, but yeah, exactly. So typically it's like a hedge fund or something, and they have some kind of debt lending practice, and they'll lend you money at a certain interest rate, but you don't have to go through a bank. You just go directly to that fund or that family office or that wealthy individual, and that's what they consider a shadow bank because they're not beholden to federal regulations.
Right.
So.
I have a question around just kind of home ownership. I own my mom's house now that I rent out, but I don't know if I am just scared of buying a home or if I am really just not interested. So I have a lot of friends who owned and went back to renting for various reasons. It was because of 08, it was because of just the expense of it. I feel like because I'm getting married, it's that whole get married, buy a house, and I'm just not interested. And at this point, I don't feel like home ownership is what it
used to be.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of people who now, in our generation, who are on their way to owning their home outright. Do you all, and even to the people who are homeowners, do you all feel like it's been a good investment for you all? Would you all, if you could, unload it? Or I'm curious on how people are approaching it and dealing with it now.
Open it up to the group. Who owns? I don't.
My point of view is don't think of as counterintuitive as this might be, like don't think of your home as an investment. Just think of it as your home.
So would that be a
so
continuing to rent?
Could be.
Okay.
It could be. I mean, but think about your home, and if it turns out that means you purchase something, then that's okay. But don't think about it as much as like, is this thing going to make money for me or not? Think about it as your home.
So I agree, but I disagree. I think it just depends on what you're buying. So if you're buying a multi-unit property, then that's different. So you'll leverage the tenants that are in that property to actually pay your mortgage, right? And basically live quote-unquote debt free in some senses. And if you have a home, I think you should look at it as a vehicle to be able to leverage in order to create a business either for yourself or your family. I think a home is a losing proposition for yourself if it's just you, right? So I think people get in that mindset because that was something that was given to us from our parents.
Yeah.
But I think you should look at a multi-unit property if you're a single individual. If you're not a single individual, then I think you should probably look at a home or something like that, but leverage that in a way where, like I said, you can take the equity from that, flip that, turn that into a business that ultimately can grow and benefit from. That's the way I look at it. So I might be wrong.
Thoughts?
I think regardless of whether you're single or whether whatever, I think multi-unit opportunity, especially in a city like Chicago, is awesome because you get to live in one of the units, you get to rent out the other, and it helps pay for the property that you're paying off. So I think it just depends on what you want. If you want a lot of space and you want it by yourself and you can afford it, then that's fine. But I have a friend that lives in a 2-flat, and he lives in one and he rents out the other, and the other people, because it's in Lincoln Park, is practically paying almost his entire mortgage. And so he suffers the space that he has with his family, but he's okay with it. To get back to your point, I bought a house, and I would say one thing, I'd say make sure you have enough reserves to take care of it. First and foremost, I think it's not one of those things that you can actually plan out and say, I have enough for my car payment, I have enough for my mortgage, I have enough for my taxes, I have enough for my insurance, and like think that it's going to streamline and be okay, because that's not how it works. And eventually, like the roof is going to collapse, and then you're going to be and you're going to be like, I have to pay somebody $20,000 to fix that, and then so if you're an opportunity, like he was saying, if you're going to live there for a long time, then that's great. Because you've already put in your mind that this is where I want to be. I see myself living here for 30 years. Like then that's fine because you're willing to make the investment. But if it's like something that you think you're not sure, or it's like you think it's an investment opportunity, I'd say make sure you have a lot in reserves before you do it. I was fortunate enough to buy a house, and literally 3 days after I bought it,
We're from Illinois.
so it was literally like
I think that's probably my fear.
I bought my house, the taxes went up 40%, and so for me, it's been like a struggle because now I'm in the middle of deciding like, do I want to tough it out, or do I want to like start fresh and go and rent and like take a second and chill and like regroup and like figure out what I want to do. And so I would say that you definitely need the finances to back it up if you want to make an investment like that. And I wouldn't say don't go on peer pressure by other people saying that you should get married, buy a house, have kids, and like whatever. Because there's nothing wrong with renting.
I like being able to call somebody for something.
I could
I'm not feeling the pressure.